Before we dive deeply into building our big final React project, we have to take some time to better understand class components. More specifically, we have to understand the lifecycle methods that are present on them that we can leverage when writing our class components. Now, inside of our Monsters Rolodex project, we only used component did mount. But there's actually a couple others that we need to explore because they all serve different purposes and they all trigger at different times in a component's lifecycle. And I will show you what that is throughout the next couple lessons. But before we do that, I'm just going to show you what this quick little Create React app project that I've got is about. Now, this is just a quick CRA project that I spun up the same way that we did with our Monsters Rolodex, except I only want to use it for demonstration purposes of learning these concepts. Now, if you want, I have included the GitHub link to this project, but honestly, it's not much that you need to code along with. It's more for you to see and watch and listen while I explain these upcoming concepts. But all this project really comprises of is it's slightly modified of what the base project that Create React app gives us. And in it, I've just modified our app component to have these two buttons that decide on what to show for our lifecycles component. Now, I know this lifecycle component just looks like a bit of text right now, but I just put it here so that you can see whether or not it's there or not. And what I mean by that is whenever you click this toggle lifecycles button, you'll see that that component disappears, right? I'm pulling it off the DOM based on whether or not you've clicked or toggled the lifecycles button. And then the update text button, whenever you click, will just put this underscore hello. And the more you click it, the more underscore hellos get appended to that text. Now, let me show you what the code looks like. Now, as you can see from the folder structure, it's pretty much just the base Create React app project. The only difference is that we have this lifecycles component that we'll look at a little later that I import into our app component, and then I append it right here. Now, we'll explore this code, but the first thing that we need to notice is that our app, of course, is a class-based component that has a state where the initial values are this showChild property that is a Boolean, with the default value being true, and then this text value, which is a string with the default value being an empty string. Now, if you ignore this div and this header and this image, because these are pretty much just presentational HTML elements, the main things to look at is these two buttons, and then of course this code right here. In this button, we have this onClick that will fire off our function that calls setState, where we set the showChild property of our state equal to the opposite value of what it was currently. We do that by using this bang operator. And what this bang operator does is it evaluates any Boolean or any value to the opposite value that it is. So for example, if showChild is true, then I want to set the state value of showChild to the opposite value, meaning that it will be bang true, which is equal to false. Bang just says, give me the opposite Boolean value of whatever that value is. So if state.showChild is false, then bang false is equal to true. So that's all we do. It's a really handy way for us to toggle between a true and false state by simply calling this bang operator. So whenever you click it, it will set the showChild value to the opposite value as the next state value. In this second button, we have this onClick that fires this anonymous function that will call setState that sets the state.text to whatever it currently is, except adding on this extra underscore hello string. So all we do is whenever we click it, our state text just gets more and more underscore hello strings appended to the end of it, as we saw whenever we clicked the button earlier. Finally, we have this code here that determines whether or not to hide or show our LifeCycles component. So this, you might see, is kind of odd looking. This is actually what's called a ternary operator. And it sounds like a weird thing, but it's actually just in shorthand that allows us to write easier if-else statements. All it is it takes the form of this question mark and this colon with different things between it. So you can see it as 3 parts. The first part is what we want to evaluate as true or false. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you can imagine that we had some if statement, right? Like this. This first initial if statement, right, where we evaluate something about whether or not it's true or false, is pretty much what this is saying. And that's why we use this Boolean value that we have in our state as true or false. So I'm saying if this.state.showChild is true, then I want to either render this or this. So this first thing that we see after the question mark is what gets evaluated if showChild, right? So whatever's on this side is true. So if showChild is true, render the LifeCycles component. If this.state.showChild is false, then render null. So you can see this last section here pretty much being what goes into the else statement. So you can see this as what goes here, this as what goes here, and this as what goes here. So it's pretty much just a really handy and quality of life coding syntax that allows us to write if-else statements in a much easier and readable way.